Well, good evening, everybody. Hey, thanks for hanging with me. Had a few technical difficulties. I think I'm up and running now. So, yeah, it's good to see you. That's Linda Anderson here from Linda Lou Creates. And I pulled out the stamp set Inked and Tiled. It actually comes as a bundle. So this is obviously the stamp set. Hang on. Here is the two punches that make it a bundle. And I'm going to show you something not with these cards that I created using this punch, but I really focused on the stamp set for not only these cards, but I actually have a couple extra cards too that I just went to town working on these and having so much fun. I wanted to do some techniques, some very simple techniques, and make very simple cards with them. So that's what we've got tonight. Here are some simple technique cards. So let me get started with this one right here. Okay, as soon as I find the stuff, here we go. Now I have a pool party card base, 8.5, 5.5. The score is right here at 4 1/4. Now inside I just have a scrap piece of the, let me think, it's called Inked Botanicals, the designer series paper. I just had fun with it and the colors that are included with it. So that's what I went with. Like I said, I just pulled out the stamp set and went to town between that and the paper. Now I also have a piece of basic white. This is 5 by 3 3/4. I'm going to mat it on a piece of petal pink. It's just 1/8 of an inch bigger, meaning it is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So let me just set some of this aside because I want to do a couple things first. I went ahead and I stamped my sentiment down here. I used Lost Lagoon as my ink color. Now this piece of the Inked Botanicals designer series paper is 1/2 inch wide, 5 inches long. So it's just going to go straight across. Now I was like, okay, I can go with that. I just felt like I needed to step it up one little step. I like simple, I like layers. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I just need to do one little thing and then we'll go from there. So I don't know if you can see it. Let me bring it up without making the camera go wonky. If you can see these score lines above and below that strip of pattern paper. That is amazing how those little lines make the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this down, my strip. Like I said, it's 1/2 inch wide. And got a little heavy-handed with the glue there. And I am going to put it, now I know I'm going to do 2 strips, or 2 score lines rather. So I'm going to go up a little bit. There's no real measuring. Just eyeball it where you would like that to go. And let me straighten it out because it is mighty crooked. And there we go. Now, I'm going to move things aside here some more because I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored board. So here we go. Now, a couple things, little hints on this one. I want to score it. These are 1/8 of an inch increments all the way across on this scoreboard. So I like to use my bone folder on this to do the scoring. So it falls, the edge of the paper falls in this score line, which happens to be 1 5/8. I mean, that's not important. It's just where it's going to, that's my first, that's where the edge of the paper falls, is in that score line. So I'm going to go to the next one, which happens to be on this card at 1 3/4. And then I'm going to go to the very next one, which is then 1 7/8. Now I want to do it top and bottom. So let me just flip it around, see what I've got here. All right, so my next score line here past the edge of the paper happens to be this one that's 2 3/4. Like I said, those are not true measurements. It's wherever, it all depends on where you adhere down your little strip of paper. Now, that looks good as it is. The lines are debossed or pushed in. I wanted them raised up. So I'm going to now flip this over, because if I were to put it on this side and try and guess where to score it, I don't know, because I can't see where I have my 1/2 inch strip there. So all it is then is to flip it over and just run your bone folder right back into those grooves. And what I'm doing now, yes, I'm kind of making it a 2-step process, but now I have the lines up, and that's the way I like them. I want to do it that way. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. Let's finish this card. It's that simple. So I already have a bunch of dimensionals on the back of my petal pink, in case you're wondering why it's kind of funny standing. So let's go ahead and get this on. Now, because it's only 1/8 of an inch bigger, that means it's 1/16 of an inch that sticks out from the white and the petal pink all the way around. So not a lot. That's another reason why I like my glue. That way I can move this around. I put the dimensionals on the back, thinking, this was my thought of just kind of, this is a way of stepping up this card a little bit. Yes, it is simple. And the score lines help to kind of boost it, give it a little bit of a boost. And I feel like so did the dimensionals. Popping this up is also giving it that dimension, that bit of a boost to this card as well. So let me get at all of these. Oh boy. Just a couple more, honest. One more, I think. And yep, that's it. So here we go. Let's go ahead, adhere this down. And it's almost done. You know me, I love these festive pearls. So I am using them. The blue kind of like pool party color is what I'm going to use. And I'm just going to actually put 2 of them down here just to kind of highlight the sentiment. So 2 of those. And that's it. So here is card number 1. Let me just show you something that I did. I had, like I said, I was having too much fun this weekend, and not only did I do it landscaping, but I did it in portrait mode as well. Added a few more of the pearls. Same idea though, just a different direction. So, all right. So there are card number 1 using the scoring technique. Excuse me. All right, so next up, a very, very simple card here. Couple little things to cut, and then a little bit of fun stamping that we're going to do, a technique here. So let me push that aside. I've got a Night of Navy card base, and inside the very same thing. I just have a scrap strip of that designer series paper on a piece of white. I have another piece of the basic white that is 5 1/4 this time by 4. Now my designer series paper. This is 5 1/4, and the width is 1 1/2. All right. Before I actually adhere it down, we're going to do some stamping, but I just wanted to kind of set it there. I have a piece of the Night of Navy cardstock. It is 1/4 of an inch wide, 5 1/4 inches long. And I'm just going to adhere that down as well. Now, I'm just going to set some of this off to the side, and let me find my stamps. So, a couple things here. I have, it is going to be Lost Lagoon is the ink color that I'm going to use. So let me just move this off to the side. Brand new ink pad. Very often I find them to be actually a little bit too wet. So I like to kind of, especially with a stamp like this that has some detail, that more sort of distinctive look to it, I don't want to lose all of that detail. So what I'm going to do is not get rid of some of the ink, but I'm going to kind of move it off to the side. So to do that, I think I've showed you this before. There's a very expensive tool that you're going to need for this, and I am kidding. Just a plastic spoon. So all I do is just kind of push the ink down to one end of the ink pad. And now this area in the middle that I pushed away the ink has less ink. It's not as juicy as I'm sure you've heard it being said. So now I feel a little more confident with being able to use that on my stamps that have the detail, and I'm not going to muck it up by having my ink too wet. So I've inked that up. I have an idea, because I have this paper here, where I want my stamp, my leaf stamp, to go. All right, so from here, now let me move that out of the way. I'm going to stamp it once. I should have a piece of, here we go, just some scrap paper, because I'm not going to re-ink. I'm actually going to stamp it again. This is called that second generation stamping. And there we go. Right now it looks like a hot mess, but don't worry, we're gonna make this into a card that's actually going to look pretty awesome. So a technique called second generation stamping. You could actually, on some of them, practice with them, but you could even do a third generation, a third stamping on some of them before you end up needing to re-ink. I just wanted the two. So, all right, I have now, I'm just putting this down for a place to eyeball, and now I'm going to do my sentiment, my hello friend, that I am inking up. I happen to have an ink spot from one of my paper pumpkin kits, and that's what I'm using because I forgot to get my Night of Navy, the full pad. So without bumping the camera, I'm going to try and get this stamped in here somewhat straight. All right, not bad. Now we can start adhering things down. I like to use my papers and what have you just as guides too. So I try not to get them adhered down too soon. So that way that helped me there for placement. So here we go. Now, Night of Navy is not listed when you look at the colors for this paper pack. Night of Navy is not there, but I love blue and green together. Blue and brown together, I really like. So I just thought I would bring in this neutral Night of Navy, and it just pulls it out, this dark color that's in here. So there we go. That's why I did that. So I just wanted, again, to just sort of have a pop of color right here along the edge. So that's why I have this strip, this 1/4 inch strip, and I really am just adhering it down at the top of that pattern paper. So now this can go down onto the card base. Let me make sure I have it. Yep. So here we go. And see, doesn't that green, that blue green, look good? I love it. All right, little bit of embellishing, so to speak, is with a linen thread bow. I am going to get one of my little glue dots here, kind of roll it up on itself, and now I will put it down. I'm going to now push my bow down into that, and there we go. Let me just kind of straighten that one out. There we go. All right. Again, the festive pearls. A couple of those. Right here using my pick tool. And there it is. Just the 3. Put as many down as you want. And that is card number 2 with the 2nd generation stamping. Okay, card number 3. Oh, wait, before we go on to that, looky. I made one in the portrait mode as well. Now this one, it measures 2 1/4 by 4, this piece of DSP. This one was 1 1/2. This one's 2 1/4. All right, so just so you know, whichever direction you prefer, it can be done. Okay, so just wanted to show you that. Now, card number 3, I only did this one in one direction. So I did it in the portrait mode. So with this one, let me go ahead and point out that it is a top folding card, my favorite. That means it's 11 by 4 1/4. The score's in the middle here at 5 1/2. Again, the same 4 by 5 1/4 and a scrap of the DSP. Let me set that off to the side. I also have a piece, a second piece of the basic white, 4 by 5 1/4. Now my pattern paper, what I'm going to do with this one is just, since it's the other side, I'm going to just do that. I'm going to use the other side when I create my second card. So 5 1/4 by 1 1/4 is this piece. All right. And then this is 2 by 4. And we're just going to make an L shape, I guess, with that. So let me go ahead and get this put down, and then we're going to get into the making of the flowers. Options. Lots of options when it comes to using color on your stamps and getting multiple colors then. So I will show you what I did. So let me make sure. I've had myself mixed up here. All right, so this is the 2 by 4. And let me get that put down here as well. All right, so here we go. Let me bring back a piece of scrap paper. Now, I use the Decal rectangle dies to cut this out, and it measures approximately 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. I just don't remember if it's the 3rd from the smallest. Anyway, 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. I honestly don't remember where it is within all of those stacked rectangle dies then. So, in order to get the 2 colors, first of all, my stamp. You can use markers. So here's the Stampin' Right marker. This one happens to be the Lost Lagoon. I can color my stem. I could get these are actually crushed curry, and the Calypso Coral. I can use those markers. You can use ink pads, full ink pads, to stamp on your stamp. You could use a sponge dauber. Let me show you. Yeah, here. So what I could do is go into the ink pad and then put the ink onto my stamp that way. So this is how I could get multiple colors then on the stamp. Remember, I'm lazy, so I prefer using the stamp pads. However, I like to use the small ink pads, the spots. All right. Now, earlier, when I was using that Night of Navy, I had mentioned that it was with a paper pumpkin kit that I had that ink spot. Now, if you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you can certainly see if you have these colors in your collection already. However, don't be afraid to make your own. That's what you'll need then is a bottle of re-inker, which this one I'm going to make up is Lost Lagoon, and Stampin' Up! Sells the empty ink spots. So you can make your own spots. Just right on the back, this actually says it's not Lost Lagoon. I squeezed an N in there, so yeah, Lost Lagoon is what it is. So all I'm going to do is take my re-inker. I am going to cover this spot with the ink. It will soak right in, and I now have a Lost Lagoon ink spot. So I honestly use these a lot. So I use ink spots a lot. I make up my own a lot as well using that very technique. All right, so let's go ahead and get going on that. So first up, the flowers. Now let me turn this kind of sideways here. The flowers, as you can see, have the crushed curry, but then the tips have that coral color to them. Now, I like to figure out which one is the lighter of the colors between the two. Crushed curry is what I'm thinking. I'm going to go ahead and ink up the flowers good with the crushed curry. All right. Now, I'm going to come back. I happen to have a Calypso Coral, one that I made of an ink spot. And all I'm going to do is just kind of swipe on the tips of the flowers. So just kind of swipe, and because it is a little darker, you're going to be able to tell if you have color there or not. Now, like I said, you could certainly use a dauber to do this. I just go ahead and use my ink spot. I kind of caught the corner here, so let me just get that wiped off. And I don't think I got very well over here, but then hey, flowers are unique. You don't have to be perfect, and they all definitely don't have to be the same. So now it comes for the stem, which is going to be the Lost Lagoon, the one we just made. So here we go. So now I can get in here so much better with my green, with my Lost Lagoon. I noticed I got a little bit on the flower, and I'm okay with that. Again, it's natural color. It's a natural, it's from nature. It's a flower. So this is where too that you'll see people huff on their stamp. Just use some hot air, which I have plenty of. And that kind of re-wets, so to speak, the ink that you first put on there. So I'm going to go ahead, stamp that down, and here is my beautiful flower. See where I got the green in there? And I'm okay with that. That is fine. Now, let me just show you, though, that I happen to have one that I already put my dimensionals on the back. So now here's a tip then as well for this coloring on here. If you wanted to do a second one, I would recommend, meaning full strength. If you wanted to do that second generational stamping, go for it. However, if you wanted to do several of these cards using this die cut, you had several of those lined up, I recommend cleaning your stamp off in between each one. And the reason I do that is especially because of the flowers. When I go to ink up the flowers again, I don't want my ink spot to be contaminated with that Calypso Coral that is already on the stamp. So that's why I clean my stamp completely off and then go back at it again. All right. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Let me find my card base. Let's get this adhered down, and we are soon going to be done here. So this stamp set has so many possibilities. Like I said, I just had so much fun just playing with it, and it was very relaxing for me. So it was, yeah, a lot of fun. Highly recommend. Now, the bundle, for sure, because you get 2 punches in the bundle. When you buy as a bundle, that means the stamp set and the 2 punches. Then it's at a discount. So I would highly recommend doing that. Now, here we go. I have my dimensionals. Let me go ahead, adhere this down, get out my sentiment that I already have done. Just stamped it in the Calypso Coral. I then did a couple die cuts, and I did the Calypso Coral for the back. Die cuts, punches, whatever you've got, use it. So I'm going to have it down here on the corner. So what's going to overlap here on the corner of this rectangle, I will put glue there. Where the circle hangs off, I have a couple dimensionals there. So let's go ahead, get a little bit of glue. This way it's going to lay, when I say flat, it's not going to go uphill. In other words, if I put dimensionals over the whole thing or behind the whole thing. So now I did change up here the embellishments that I used. These are the in color dots, and I went with these wild wheat ones. And I can't find my pick tool. It was here. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this. So the pick tool is perfect for picking these things up. It also has a way of rolling off my table, apparently. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, all right. Here we go. Card number 3. So let me bring back the ones that I made and shared tonight. So I have these 3 that I shared. Now, got to show you the ones, then the additional ones that I did. Like I said, that paper, I was loving the paper, so I just cut, this is 2 inches wide, and this is 1 inch and 1 inch. Boom. That way you have your 5 1/4 by 4 covered. So there's that one. This one is very similar to this one as far as the layout goes. I just kind of changed it up a little bit as far as I went with a wide one here and then the thin one going across this way. So here that leaf was stamped, and then I got my blender brush and came in and just blended some of the Pool Party ink around. I also left it the white alone in the middle, so I feel like it's almost, you know, like, I don't know, it gets brighter then because of that. So that's card number, that's the 3rd one that I created. And then here's one more that I wanted to share with you. Again, I really wanted to highlight the paper. I also wanted to highlight that just because it's a flower and a stem and leaf doesn't mean that you have to make it in color. You don't have to make your leaves green. You don't have to have then an opposite color for your flower. But the thing I did want to share is here. This piece right here came from this punch. And I know you're like, say what? Let me show you. So I just happen to have just a piece of white here. Let me punch that out. And what I had done was I stamped my lots of love going straight across. And then, boy, I'll tell you what, I cannot find anything. Here we go. My scissors. So I just then cut it these two ends off. And voila. Okay, so I would have, I cut it a little bit, paid a little more attention to the way I cut it off, but here is then a fun little sentiment strip then that you can create, which is what I did there. Okay, so look at your punches, see other ways in which you can use them. So, but yeah, these were the extra ones that I created, had a little time, thought I would have some fun. And that paper, I love whenever I have a new pack of paper and I open it, and it takes me a little bit of time to actually cut it into it. I like to look at it first, but then once I get to cutting it, then it's like there's no stopping me. So anyway, hey guys, thanks so much for sticking with me. I know I babbled on the whole 30 minutes here, plus had a few technical difficulties, so it was a little late getting started. So I really do appreciate, though, you hanging with me. Don't be afraid to check over on my blog, lindaloucreates.com, to see the pictures of the cards I made. That way you'll be able to get measurements as well. I also have a YouTube channel. Yeah, Linda Lou Creates is what you would search for. Subscribe. You'll see all kinds of things over there too. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks again, and I hope you have a great week. See you next time. Bye.